Hi, this is Jeff with the YouTube channel The Wolf of Wisco. Follow along as we put a Subaru engine into a 74 Volkswagen bus. Well, it's time to bolt the transmission up to the engine. Got the torque converter, I believe, put all the way in. I spun it a few times and locked in, leaving the throttle body off so I can access the bolt holes. There's a window right here, that access window, so I can bolt the flywheel right here onto the torque converter. And I've got my trusty tool cart here. I don't know if it's rated for, you know, whatever this thing weighs, 400 pounds, but we used it before on some small engines like this. It works fine. We'll roll that underneath the bus, and that's what I'm going to use to get under there and put it all in as a package. The front mount will go in. I'm thinking about fabricating with Subaru gears. We don't have a mid mount like used on the Subaru car. This on the Subaru car mounts to the firewall with a dog bone. I'm gonna probably try to do something, because on the Volkswagen transmission also mounted right on the frame here. That's a rubber mounted. There's a couple of rubber mounts here and over here, and that's a hanger. And I'd like to use that mount, the Subaru gears mount. I already put the dog bone mount on the frame there. So even the Volkswagen had 3 mounts. They had the front mount, transmission mount, and then they had engine mount. So I'd like to have 3 as well on this package, instead of just front and engine cradle mount. I'd like to somehow stabilize this if possible. There's one. There's the second one. Give it a little bear hug here. I'm getting a little at a time. It's kind of been handy. Walk it in. Okay, that's on. That's on. Okay, bolting the torque converter up to this flex plate. I noticed there's access under here as well. Right here, we got a bolt started. There's 4 bolts. There are little flange head guys here. So you can either get them going here or start it underneath, and I'll turn the crank, or you can access it through there's usually a little rubber plug covering this hole and up by the throttle body. You can access it there as well. Boy, this cart is taking a load here. It's ready to go right in here. Slide right under. I'm just bolting the throttle body back down. What's kind of neat about when you use the Subaru transmission, you got a little more room to the firewall, so you don't need a throttle body reverser. You know, instead of relocating the throttle body, you can use it right here with just an elbow. That's kind of one nice perk about using the automatic transmission. All right, over to... Oh, look at this little fella. You ready to take it for a rip? I'm gonna get the camera underneath here. This is the front transmission mount. It sets the location of the transmission in the vehicle. Holy moly. The starter. Oh, Christ. I can't go down anymore at the frame. The starter is contacting the cross member up here. This bracket's weird. It's got a big pilot hole made for that bushing. Bent a little here. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's not piloting correctly. So this wasn't in the instruction on the Subaru Gears kit, but I got a hold of Todd at Subaru Gears. This bracket is dog leg forward, which pulls this transmission as close as possible here. This is correct. Do not have this dog leg flip the bracket around. It's the wrong way. This is correct right here, as close as you can get here. The reason being is this transmission is longer than a Volkswagen transmission, and the CV axles are back probably you know, a couple inches from where they need to plug in here to the wheel, the drive hub. So you want that transmission as far forward as possible, and that's correct. Just notice the starter is real tight right here to that cross member. So the engine can't be real high. So what I'm gonna do now, so I can fabricate, I'm gonna fabricate my own mount underneath here from the motor mounts up to the frame, up to here. It's kind of a cradle. And then fabricate my exhaust system. I'm gonna get this engine lined up right in the center, and I think I'm gonna strap it through that access hole to hold it up. Center it so I can get all the blocking out of here. That way if I want to raise or lower the vehicle, the engine's suspended by a block here. Block and tackle type. All right, I got the, I think a little picture for you. I'll show you what's going on up in here. I got the engine hanging by a ratchet strap through the access hatch, and I've got a safety chain, and that's going to that transmission mount on the Subaru transmission. So I got a chain on here, and I'm gonna adjust the height using this ratchet strap to get it where I want it. Maybe a block or jack stand underneath. That way I can get it exactly the height I want before I fabricate the engine mount. The underside mount that's gonna go from this motor mount across to the other motor mount. And then if you look at this, it's going to come up about where the frame has this bend in it here. So I can either form a pad here, I can come with a flat pad here, down the rail, or anywhere in here. Just run the up here and bolt through here. Too bad I couldn't use the existing holes. That's quite a ways back. And I might use this, I think I got 1.25 inch thick wall. It's a mild steel. I got about 6 feet of this stuff. And I can cut and section or bend. I don't have a pipe bender, so I would be fabricating, cutting, and welding on that for that rear mount. All right, so leveling the engine up, down like this. Of course, you know, side to side, I can do some measuring and I can put a level on it and I can get it level this way. But the front mount is dictated by the Subaru Gears front mount right there. And I was gonna measure either on the bottom of the transmission, or here's a nice flat spot right on the exhaust gasket, this gasket surface here. And it's saying, okay, I'm a little bit off. I gotta go down in the front, up in the back. So I gotta go up in the back a little bit, okay? We're just off a little bit. We're in the bubble, but we're off a little bit. I can't go up in the back because I don't have clearance between the starter and this bolt right here. This one right here. That's about a finger right there. So I don't really want to jam it up in there. And that bolt is for that's for this mount. That's this rubberized mounting system that's welded onto this cross member. I want to keep that. So I'm going to probably put it about right there. I mean, if I did some sawing and hacked out a big spot right here, I could go up another inch, I think, because there's room. I could probably go up another inch. There's room. There's an inch there. And there's room around the bell housing to go up. It's just that fastener underneath here by the starter, and that holds the. That's for the mounting system. So I ended up taking the rubberized mount that's for the old Volkswagen transmission. I pulled this off the bus. Here was the contact area right here about where this bolt is for the starter. And there's a cross member that ran all the way across here. You can kind of see the old witness mark here. I ended up sawing this out for the starter first, and I removed this, and then I just kind of chopped the entire subframe bracket. I let the frame, I just cut off about a couple inches and got plenty of clearance for the transmission. Just got this out of the way. Use the stock Subaru motor mounts. Come by here with a tube up to the frame, probably straight up here. I can leave the exhaust, room for the exhaust. However I want to run that, you got to connect the exhaust from each side tied together into a muffler. It's typically how it's done. So yeah, I'm gonna lay this out, see what I can do. But I have some tubing here. It's some thick wall. It's probably 3/16 wall tubing. This is 1.25 inches, and I've got some plate here, and I'll be putting the plate maybe here or figuring out. These are kickstand pads for a motorcycle I had laying around, so they're already pre-cut. All right, so I'm gonna start working on the motor mount, the rear engine mount, and the engine's just hanging in here. And I got a plate on either side onto the bolted on. This is 3/16, and I've got 3/16 heavy wall steel tubing here. I'm gonna get this all tacked up here. I've got a plate up on the frame clamped on here, and I'm gonna just kind of find out where it lies real nice. Plan is to stay about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch away from the engine. Have these hanging fairly in line. I don't want them cantilevered out, so it'll run down straight across the bottom of the engine and back up to the other. Hopefully I can do it without more than a couple miter cuts right here at the bottom. So that's the plan. Okay. The first pipe going up here, or tubing, I guess. I'll pull it away from the motor mount so it's not jamming into the engine. I want a little bit of flex there. Need 3 hands here. There we go. A little better tack. Okay, down here. Turn that plate so it's running parallel to the tube. I'm just going to tack this. Here. More. Okay. I came down to the mount here, and now I'm going to run across the back right here with this mitered tube, like that, and then pick up over here on the other mount. I think I got to cut off 1/4 inch off the tubing. It's a little long to meet the right angle here, the miter tangent, if you will. All right. I chopped a little bit off of this side. We're just gonna do, color by number here. We're gonna just build as we go all the way around. We got this tube cut, that angle. Let's see here. Something like that. It's fairly symmetrical come off of this plate. Down here, a little gap to fill. That's just setting in there. I could twist that pipe to pull that out, of course, to get these miters right. And then I came up here and I got to clear the block here. I got to clear the frame, so I'll slide the pipe over. It's just setting in there right now, guys. So I'll get this tack together. Put another tack. I got that one just barely tacked in place. Add another tack. Okay, tube's coming across. Then this one going up, I was able to, it's a little bit of a backward angle to clear the head. So I was able to rotate this metal mounting plate on the motor mount, just turn that so it follows the angle. That way I can weld it along here. There's less to fill. I might need a little bit here. We'll put a tack here. And I tacked it lightly up here. I'll get another one. That way I can take it out. I'm gonna tack a few more places just so when I slide it out of the frame, it doesn't distort. And I know that I'm coming off the motor mounts. I'm coming off these motor mounts that are angled. There's two motor mounts and they're angled outward. Obviously that needs to be a slot. I got a mill. I may have to cut that tack weld off and mill, you know, you put a slot in there. You could have an inch-long slot in that motor mount, you know, cause a problem. I may need to cut a couple tacks here, pull these off, put them back on. All right, I just put the motor mount plates here in the mill. I got an old Bridgeport here. We're gonna do a slot. We're gonna cut a slot in here, lock the coil down, and that's just gonna be for so the engine mount can be installed and removed because they're at an angle. We're just gonna go about 1/4 inch each way. No rocket science to this. There we go. All right. Okay, I got these plates slotted and everything's tacked back on both sides. And I want to make sure that this motor mount comes off with these, off these studs because they're at an angle. So let's unbolt this. One more bolt. Okay. Oh boy, that's barely enough. That slot right there. Yeah. I'm gonna get it inside the frame here, but yes, I slotted it 1/4 inch each way and yep, slid them all the way up into the slot before I welded them on here. So I'm gonna get everything kind of clamped back in, a few more tacks just to make sure it doesn't move when I pull it out. Place grip clamp here on this side. It's going back in the same spot, but let's throw a couple more welds on. One up top. One more here in the middle. Pull the mount off, final weld it, grind it a little bit, make it look pretty, and put her back in here. Okay, over at the weld table, I'm going to just go ahead and start blazing this thing, welding it up. And tacked enough so I hope it doesn't move too much. All right, using the Hobart 110 on this. There we go. Welded in that fillet right there. Not a pro, but hey, it'll hold. Just gotta hold the engine in, that's all. One side welded here. Still a little hot. Not a professional, but that's gonna work. Okay, got her welded and did a little grinding. I think I'm gonna add a gusset here. I got these gussets I made. And same material, 3/16. I'm gonna just throw that gusset in the corner, add a little. It's not like this is gonna peel off, either the weld, this is not gonna bend, but I just wanna give a little stability. So I'm gonna add that gusset right here, maybe at a bit of an angle. That one was nice. Gonna shoot a little primer. I wiped it off with some carb clean, got it fairly clean here. We're gonna just hose it down with some quick primer and then throw some black on it. We've got black. Okay, got the finished product here. Let's get the install happening. All right, gotta just get it started up between the frame and get the slot going on each stud here on the motor mount. Let's see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. Get these studs started. And that's where she goes. I'm gonna clamp this tight here on this pad, and I'm gonna be boring a hole through the frame rail on each side here. One there. I don't know if I'll do two or just a single hole. A little more work on the engine mounts here. I ended up raising the engine another 1.5 inches up. Originally, I had a bolt here on a plate behind here. I end up moving it up, sliding it up, unbolting it. I'm gonna put 2 fasteners here and here because I got rid of my center transmission mount. The center transmission mount is this large mount right here, made for the Volkswagen, and I was gonna try to adapt the Subaru with this adapter. Basically, it's a square tubing with some ears on it. I was going to grab the transmission. Well, the starter hit in this area right here, hit on this. So I pulled that out and I chopped off some of the support bracket that was holding this, allowing the engine to go up. It was hanging down. I only had 5.5 inches of ground clearance. Now I got 7.5, and I'm going to also wind up this torsion spring maybe to pull the back end up 1 inch. It's actually sagging about 1 inch, so I'll go level, maybe just a hair up by spinning the torsion bar. You pull off this arm here and re-clock it. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to mount the engine. Here's one bushing I already had put in previously. I'm moving to 2 bushings. I don't want the cantilever of this thing rocking. I'm just going to put 2 bushings right here. So in order to do that, on the back side of the frame here is my bracket, and I've drilled through, and this is a tube, kind of a stamping for a frame. It's just fabricated sheet metal, and you don't want to just bolt that together. This will squeeze together and you won't get a good clamp joint. It'll just pinch that, and you could have a problem with the fastener coming loose, whatever. You want to have a good clamp joint. So what you do is you drill it. I got a 3/8 bolts here. I'm going all the way through with the 3/8, and then I'll take a unibit here, take the unibit, and I'll bore it a little bit, and I'll put in a spacer. So I got to take the unibit, drill that out so they can actually pinch against the other side. I'm only going to drill this side. And then the spacer sticks out here about 1/16 of an inch. You can weld a little bit around it so it doesn't fall in. And then you're actually creating a box section that you can clamp as tight as you want. And that's the best way to do the joint. I'm gonna put 2 bolts here. Clean that up. Okay, perfect, nice. Got a snug fit. I'm gonna put the bolt from the back. I had already drilled the 3/8 hole all the way through. All right, passenger side. I've got a bushing put inside the frame here. I bored this hole with a unibit, stuck the bolt from the back side for the motor mount here. And it's just sticking a little bit flush. I'm gonna weld around here. Get the welder, clean this up with a grinder first, weld around that, and then that'll be another good clamp joint here. So, clean this up. Bolt from the back. Spacer all the way in. Recess that bolt. I don't want to weld onto that. Just kind of, otherwise, I don't want the spacer to fall off inside the frame. That spacer in deep. Yep, on the right side. Let's just hold that spacer in place. Shoot it while it's hot. I actually want the nut on the inside, on the back with a wrench. Now that tightened up. Had I not put a spacer in there, this would have just kept chugging away and pinching that frame together. So I'll hit the last one here with a spacer. Even though I'm on here, I can drill that through this member shock tower and through the frame. Just put a little bit longer spacer. I've got the final hole bored here, about 5/8. Got the bolt coming through from the back side with my spacer. So this one's gonna stick out. I could cut it off, but it's at an angle here. And I'm just gonna put a weld around this. We got plenty of clearance for the tire. But yeah, so that way we can get that clamp joint, guys. So that's why I think I'm gonna do it. So they're all done. This one, and both on the other side. So, all right, got the final one welded here. This spud or frame stiffener bushing. Okay, that wraps up the engine install and the homemade engine mount. I'm gonna kind of go through where we ended up for ground clearance. I got the tires taken off so you can see a little bit better the engine and transmission, the attitude of the engine transmission. I got it leveled off on the lift. It's actually tilted upward about 1 degree, and that gave me 7.5 inches of ground clearance to the pan. As you can see, the differential's about the same height, and along with the transmission pan. Transmission pan actually is also kind of tilted. It's up a little bit more in the back, so it's tilted slightly upward. I'm talking just barely. So let's see in the inside, we've got some clearance. Climb up here where I've done some removal of the old Volkswagen transmission mount. And there's where I was having starter clearance issues right down in here. I've got about 1 inch to the starter solenoid now. Actually could have pulled the engine up a little more, but it sits decent in the engine bay and adequate clearance, and I didn't want to crank it, you know, way up in the back. I want to keep the engine level. So that's where we ended up. That'll end up the episode, and next thing we're going to do is build an intake system. Thanks for watching, guys.